Versatile Mage. Chapter 176. The income is faster than the returns. I went through your documents. You're from Bo City, and you're called Fan Mo, is that right? The old man chuckled. Yes. The knowledge that my granddaughter has is not comparable to normal people. She would naturally be a little bit arrogant. If there's anything you feel is offensive, please don't take it to heart, the old man said. I won't fight with the little kid, Mo Fan said. Good. The opposite party has already paid 100,000 RMB for this commission. The other 200,000 RMB will be received after the commission is done. Our hunter agency is different from the other hunter agencies. The commission doesn't collect any communal cost. After you've finished the mission, you and Lingeling will share the pot. 150,000 RMB will be sent to your bank account. 150,000 RMB. Mo Fan's eyes flickered. The commission was only for a night, and the primary mission was to protect the child of a family. For an intermediate magician, this shouldn't be too difficult. 150,000 RMB for a night. This way of making money was even faster than stealing it. Our Clearski Hunter Agency is not only famous in Shanghai, but all across the nation. A commission of 300,000 RMB is only the lowest level. Your seniors won't accept any commissions beneath 1,000,000 RMB. You and Lingeling are still young, so you can start with these small things. Once you've matured, I will assign you bigger things to do, the old man laughed gently. Bigger things. Mo Fan was shocked. If 300,000 RMB was considered the lowest level, then what level were the bigger things at? The old man smiled mysteriously, but didn't say anything. He only used his eyes to tell Mo Fan that if he did his best, then the benefits he could get would be endless. Lingeling went to look for the data. You can sit here and wait for a bit. In the future, this will be considered your home as well, so you don't need to be so courteous. There's also an empty room in the attic. You can stay there if you like. Oh, I still haven't introduced myself after telling you all this. I am the president of Clearski Hunter Agency, surnamed Bao. You can call me Old Bao in the future. Alright, so you really are surnamed Bao. Mo Fan couldn't do anything. He didn't know whether this old man had watched too much TV, or he really was related to Bao Qingshan. In any case, this world's history and the history of his own world were very similar. The same historical people existed, and the legendary figures from history were also not lacking. Mo Fan still remembered his history classes talking about the Magic Dynasty period of Qin Shi Huang. Mo Fan wasn't being courteous either. This old store did have everything he needed. There was good tea, a good coffee maker, he could do whatever he wanted. Mo Fan brewed tea for himself as he took out a book about the habitats and habits of magical beasts to read. As Mo Fan was waiting inside the store, Old Bao was already on the second floor. The second floor was just like a library. It was filled with what appeared to be some ancient books and files that were sealed up. The majority of the files were covered in a layer of dust that had probably been there for a decade. The little lowly, Lingeling, was sitting on an old rattan chair. Her bright, pearl-like eyes were focused on the book on her lap. Her reading speed was very fast. It only took her about 10 seconds to finish sweeping an entire page. Grandpa, why did you let that person come? Lingeling kept searching for something even as she questioned Old Bao, who had come up the stairs. The kid's strength isn't bad. He's a good seedling. Even if his strength isn't bad, he's still just an intermediate magician, Lingeling said. If you think like this, then I believe he will surprise you. The old man was smiling, and said nothing else. Grandpa, according to the files, he's from Bo City. Lingeling's head was still lowered. Her reading speed didn't decrease while she was talking. Yeah, Lengqing is currently assisting the magic court in pursuing Silang. If we aren't wrong, then the one responsible for Bo City's destruction is most likely him. Oh, don't mention this matter to that Fan Mo. With his current strength, he is not capable of being involved in these matters, or else he will die a violent death, like shouting, Old Bao said. I know, However, I will definitely find the person who killed Shouting. Ling clenched her teeth, her puerile face displaying a hint of anger. All right, just leave this matter to us adults. Don't touch this matter until your strength is sufficient. You and Fan Mo can go ahead and deal with the things that are within the city. Shanghai is a massive city. The problems here are equally large. Old Bao patted Lingling's head. When noon came, Old Bao was friendly enough to invite Mo Fan to eat in the store. This old store was actually the home of Old Bao and his granddaughter, Lingling. They lived on the 3rd floor. The 4th floor also had rooms. It appeared to be rooms for the other members of Quashi Hunter Agency. From Old Bao's tone, it seemed like those people were quite outstanding. In the Hunters Union, the majority of people would form a whole beast hunting squad. In the Quashi Hunter Agency, most of them completed missions by themselves or in pairs. That was not your normal kind of hunter. Furthermore, these missions were worth more than 1 million RMB. After finishing off the food, Mo Fan couldn't help but ask, "What are we doing this afternoon?" "You can return back to university. We'll meet by the privately owned garden as the sky is turning dark," Lingling said. "How did you know that I was a student?" Mo Fan was a bit shocked as he stared at this little lady. Lingling pouted her little mouth, and didn't bother to explain. Mo Fan felt awkward. How many times did he get looked down on by this little kid? Sigh. Forget it. I won't argue with this little kid. Mo Fan followed Lingling's instructions and returned to the university. When the night came, Mo Fan finished his dinner in the cafeteria before heading toward the private garden. After exiting the school gates, Mo Fan called for a taxi. Just as he got into the car, 3 very well-dressed girls were talking and laughing as they walked over. The taxi driver was evidently well disposed as he made the decision to have Mo Fan carpool. There were quite a few people trying to find taxis at the university. The less scrupulous taxi drivers would try to drag a couple of people going the same way into the taxi in order to earn some more money. Mo Fan was used to it. "We want to go to the private garden," one of the girls with neat fringes said. "This brother also happens to be going there. The 3 of you can sit in the back. Let's go." The driver's face was filled with smiles as he waited for the girls to get into the car. Once they were in, he stepped on the gas pedal and drove away. Their destination wasn't very far, so they almost arrived immediately. As Mo Fan was sitting in the front, he could deduce that these girls came from families that did not lack money based on the way they talked and laughed. They didn't want to live in a plebeian-like dormitory, so they spent money to rent a room in the apartment block inside the garden. The student in the front, "Do you also live here?" The girl with the short hair immediately asked Mo Fan once they got out of the car. "No, I'm only here to deal with some things," Mo Fan replied. Oh, are you also a new student? Why do I feel like you're familiar?" The girl with the short hair asked with a smile. "Io, Jia Wenqian, isn't your way of flirting a bit too old? Who cares if he's familiar or not, just ask for his phone number," the girl with the neat fringes said with a smiling face. "Yeah, you kept staring at him when we were in the car," the girl with red lips pointed out. "Do you want to die?" The 3 girls immediately became extremely noisy, without regard for anyone else. Mo Fan helplessly shook his head, and hurriedly went to find his superior. Speaking of which, in The Great Detective, there was a kid being paired up with a beautiful girl solving numerous crimes. Here, it was actually a little lowly being paired up with a handsome young man. Ellipsis. Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 177 Exposing the Truth. "Why did you come so late?" said the little lowly Lingling, her arms crossed angrily. Mo Fan looked at this little girl and started to wonder why that old man Bao only wanted him to babysit this child instead of hunting monsters. "It's still early. Anyhow, you discover anything yet?" Mo Fan asked. "Here, take a look," replied Lingling as she handed over a mini laptop to Mo Fan. Mo Fan was startled for a second, but as he took a look at the laptop, he realized that there were a few screens, each showing the situation of the luxury living room, bedrooms, bathrooms, and the other rooms. And at the top right corner of the screen was a ticking clock. It was a CCTV. Mo Fan was in shock and he shouted, "Are you a hacker? How could you set up CCTVs in other people's houses? Let's get to the rooftop now. If anything happens, we can react right away," replied Ling Ling crisply. To be honest, Mo Fan was still slightly clueless about this task. They couldn't possibly stay at the front doors of the lady's house and rush in right away if they heard any odd noises, or they would just scare off the enemy. Besides, they still couldn't identify who the monster was, and it would be quite a problem to protect the child without being noticed. But who could have thought that the pretty little girl Ling Ling had already set up cameras around the house? The angles she set up were perfect, eliminating every blind spot. Thus, if nothing happened tonight, all they had to do was observe any movements through the CCTVs and 150,000 RMB would be theirs. "Girl, don't sit at the rails, it's very dangerous." Just as Mo Fan dozed off for a second, he realized that Ling Ling was already sitting at the edge of the top floor. The little figure sat on the edge, swinging her legs in the air 60 meters above the ground, scaring the hell out of Mo Fan. "Little girl, this building is at least 20 floors high. Any average girl would have felt dizzy once they looked downwards. Aren't your guts just a little bit crazy?" Ling Ling, however, did not bother about Mo Fan while she chewed something in her mouth with her mini laptop still on her lap. She glanced up at the skyline of this busy city, about to light up under the coming cloudy weather, and then observed the situation of the family through the cameras. Speechless, Mo Fan sat down beside her, and even felt some slight pain as the strong wind currents blew on his face. As he looked down, the masterpiece private garden was within his sight. At the center was a children's playground, at the west was a tiny square, a pool was in the south, and a tiny forest occupied quite a large space. The time was right after a meal, people were strolling around the garden, kids were playing at the playground, and the beautiful and sweet laughter of girls could be heard coming from some levels of the buildings. Peace and serenity filled the entire surrounding area. With such a harmonious scene, who would have related it to a horrendous monster? "I'll take a bath," said the lady, her voice coming from Ling Ling's laptop. Upon hearing this, Mo Fan was slightly surprised, as Ling Ling had even set up sound surveillance. He blinked a few times and said hurriedly, "Ling Ling, I reckon that you are a little tired of observing the situation for such a long time. Let me do it. Are you stupid, or do you take me as an idiot?" "You pervert," replied Ling Ling as she humphed. As she spoke, she casually clicked on a few buttons and right away, the screen surveilling the bathroom immediately went dark. Mo Fan laughed dryly and asked, "What about the husband and the kid?" "The kid is watching a cartoon right now, but the husband, he is starting to feel uneasy," answered Ling Ling. They both continued paying attention to the monitor, but failed to identify or notice any terrifying elements described by the lady. This family looked just like a normal family that was living normally. "Is the lady done bathing yet?" asked Mo Fan out of nowhere. It had been half an hour, and the sound of water flowing could still be heard coming from the bathroom. "And that's just how long a woman can bathe." Frowned Ling Ling as she suddenly realized something. "What?" asked a confused Mo Fan. "Do you still remember when she said she discovered a blood-stained skin on her husband's shirt this morning, before she rushed here to seek us out?" said Ling Ling. "Yeah. What was wrong about it?" replied Mo Fan. "She had her makeup on. She cried so bad that she ruined her makeup. Now, if she discovered that there was something wrong with her husband, do you think that she would have time to put on her makeup? Not to mention that she could still take her time and bathe for half an hour right now," answered Ling Ling as she switched on the screen monitoring the bathroom. Fog covered the entire bathroom, and when Mo Fan stared at the monitor, he could vaguely see a body figure with smooth skin. Just as he thought he was going to get some gratuitous eye candy, he stuttered and shivered. That was no woman taking a bath, but a woman's skin hanging there. Human skin without blood and flesh looked like a deflated doll, but the wet and messed up hair was the scariest part. This is just like a snake that shed its skin," exclaimed the now horrified Mo Fan. "Humph, it really is that thing," said Ling, staring sharply at the screen, as if she could see through everything. "What the hell is that thing?" asked Mo Fan hurriedly. "That is not a monster, but a human. I will explain to you later. If I'm not mistaken, this lady is definitely out trying to commit a foul play now," said Ling. "You will keep learning new things until you die. There are just so many strange and unique things in this world," said Mo Fan before he asked again, "Won't she worry that her husband will find out about this? She has only such a short time, so she must be lurking around this small area," said Ling. "Can you find her?" asked Mo Fan quickly. "I can try, but it's not easy. As far as I know, this thing likes to suck the blood of young women. It would trigger her interest even more if the target was a mage. Now go, get her while I take care of the child here. Go and dig out her true identity," said Ling hurriedly. "Okay," replied Mo Fan without hesitation, as he knew how dire the situation was right now. He then jumped down straight from the edge of the building, which immediately garnered the attention of Ling. She looked after him in surprise as her gaze followed Mo Fan, who was falling down from the 20-story building. Just when he was about to hit the ground, Mo Fan vanished within the shadows. This scene was extremely eerie in this weather. "The shadow element," Ling whispered. "This move was taught to Mo Fan by Tang Yu. It allowed Mo Fan to quickly descend from a high ground according to the different sized shadows created by the buildings. Of course, he practiced this move from lower buildings first, or he would have killed himself if he failed." Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 178 Skin Shed Demoness. Anywhere with shadow would be a medium for Mo Fan to travel. He first landed on the ground, and through the same magic again, he quickly dove into the dark forest. He still remembered that a while ago, there was a couple that had entered the forest for some tryst. This forest was quite huge, and with the trees blocking the light, it was definitely one of the best places for this lady to commit her crime. "Oh no, if someone comes, no oh." The moaning of the young lady could be heard immediately as soon as Mo Fan entered the forest. He was still in the shadows and immediately felt extremely uncomfortable. "Damn, behaving like that in public. This is a public place. Do you think this is your own room?" If it was any other time, he might have enjoyed the scene secretly from the side, but there was no time for that right now. "Fan Mo, head straight to the administration and ask for details of every lady that fits these two conditions, 20 years old or below, and at the same time, a mage." Ling's voice sounded in his Bluetooth earphone. "All right," agreed Mo Fan immediately, as he also thought that it was a good idea. Once he got there, without wasting any time and saliva, Mo Fan immediately showed the admin his Clear Sky Hunting Organization badge and told the admin that he was on a mission. This badge was even better than a police badge, as it represented many privileges. After all, the hunting organization's level of authorization was much higher than the police, who could only hunt down average criminals. There are about 70 households here that fit your requirements. However, there are only around 6 households of mages, said the admin, as he looked at Mo Fan suspiciously. "Fan Mo, which one is the closest to our surveillance?" asked Ling. "Golden Jade Pavilion, 18th floor, room 102. There are 3 young ladies from Pearl Institution that reside here. By the way, they often make noise at night and someone has filed complaints on them once or twice already. Then it has gotta be them. The 18th floor of Golden Jade Pavilion can be seen from the bedroom of that lady. I reckon that the 3 young ladies were targeted quite some time ago," said Ling. "On my way," replied Mo Fan. The gods knew how long and how much foul play this lady had committed, and if she was not stopped soon, there would be blood for sure. Mo Fan quickly rushed towards his destination, but since there were not enough shadows to allow him to travel straight up to the 18th floor, he had to use the elevator and knock on the door of room 102. The door was quickly opened, and it was the girl with neat bangs from earlier that opened it. A smile immediately blossomed on her face as soon as she saw Mo Fan standing right there. "Handsome, could it be you followed us all the way here after you got down?" asked the girl with a sweet smile. "Who is it? Woa, Seo Tong, Seo Tong. Your handsome guy is here for you." The red-lipped girl, who seemed to not be wearing any bra, walked out to have a look and turned back into the room once she saw Mo Fan. Mo Fan, who was standing at the side, then took a look inside the house and put up a confused expression when he realized nothing was off. Could it be that they were wrong and the shed-skin lady's target was not them? "Sorry for the disturbance. Now, I still have some matters to attend to." Mo Fan, who had no time to deal with other affairs, immediately excused himself. As soon as Mo Fan was about to leave, he immediately heard a loud scream from the red-lipped girl. Bam! The girl got rammed by something, and was sent flying out from one of the bedrooms, her body almost stuck into the hallway wall. With the naturally weaker body of the ladies, Red Lips immediately fell unconscious and blood started flowing from the back of her head. "Nan Nan!" exclaimed Neat Bangs with a shocked expression as she rushed to check on Red Lips' situation. "Stop, what element are you?" asked Mo Fan as he halted her. Light element," Neat Bangs replied while shivering in horror. "Follow right behind me," ordered Mo Fan as he charged into the room. He did not check on the girl's situation, for he knew that as a mage, she would be able to survive an attack that would kill a normal person. To his horror, when he looked into the room, he saw the girl that had struck up a conversation with him was hanging from the ceiling, her wrist sliced open by a sharp object and blood dripping down from the wounds. Right underneath her was a scaly demon in humanoid female form, her mouth opened several times larger than any ordinary human's mouth. Her extremely long tongue was slithering in the air, waiting to lick off the blood dripping down from the innocent girl's wounds. The face of the female demon was full of scales, yet Mo Fan could still recognize that this was the face of the woman that had gone to see them this morning. She looked extremely different now. From a sad, innocent, and beautiful face, she now wore an ugly, ferocious, and greedy one. If Mo Fan had not seen this for himself, he would never have believed such things existed in this world. "Wah! What is this monster?" shouted the neatly banged girl with a face as pale as paper. "God's damn demon, how dare you? This place is under my safeguard," thought the angered Mo Fan. This demon was entirely cruel. It did not kill the short-haired girl right away, nor suck her blood dry in one go, but hung its victim up high, letting her drip until she died. Mo Fan could imagine the pain the short-haired girl was going through. She was still conscious and could only endure the suffering and horror while the demon enjoyed its meal. Flaming dragon. Shit, don't run. Just as he was about to attack, the demon immediately jumped out of the window. This was the 18th floor, and if they jumped without precautions, they were doomed. He rushed to the window, only to see that the demon's claws were extremely powerful, being able to dig straight into the walls. The distance between two high buildings was not far at all. At this moment, the demoness was jumping in zigzags between the buildings, watching this horrified Mo Fan. Unexpectedly, throughout this entire process, there was not a single sound to be heard. It was easy to assume that the demoness had used this to enter the room of short hair. "Hurry up and take them to the school infirmary," Mo Fan said to Neat Bangs. At the same time, he mimicked the demoness and jumped out of the window like a great rock. When Mo Fan dropped all the way to the 13th floor, his body suddenly integrated with the shadow of the building. Standing on a balcony of the 13th floor, his eyes attentively watched the demoness, who had jumped onto the other building. "Shit, this place is way too bright. I'm unable to escape," Mo Fan cursed. Escaping shadows required shadows to shift away. There was only air between the two buildings, no dark or light there. Even if it was night, there still wouldn't be any shadows without light. Thus, it was simply impossible for him to use escaping shadows to reach the building the demoness was in. "Fan Mo, there's a situation, hurry up and come back," Suddenly, Lingerling's voice turned anxious. What is it? Mo Fan asked. Her husband is also shedding. Lingerling's voice seemed to contain some fear. Shit, both of them have problems. How is the kid? That's why I'm telling you to come back. Mo Fan was shocked. The husband's objective was precisely that kid. Heavens, the husband had employed the hunters to protect his child. Yet, he assaulted the kid in the middle of the night. Just what kind of thing was happening to this family? Save the kid first and finish our mission. I'm afraid this thing will be quite difficult. Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 179 Rescue from the Mouth of a Beast. Mo Fan no longer tried to chase after the shedding demoness. Instead, he went through fire and flames as he charged into the family. As he got to the entrance, Mo Fan could hear the child inside the place crying loudly. Who knew what kind of scene the child was seeing for him to cry like that? A man's voice could be heard from inside the place. Crying, all you know is crying. What annoys me the most is you crying. From now on, I will no longer need to listen to your ear-piercing cries. His voice sounded like there were thick things in his throat. The sound coming from it was relatively strange, nothing like a human's. Fan Mo, quick, he hasn't finished shedding yet. Once he has shed, the child will definitely die, Lingerling said urgently. Don't worry, I won't let that thing succeed. Evading shadow, Mo Fan stood by the door, his body slowly sank down. It looked like he had dropped into deep water, turning into a black shadow. The shadow began to move from outside the door to the inside. After the shadow entered, Mo Fan slowly rose from the darkness under the door. At this moment, he was already inside the house. From a glance, he could see the husband inside the large room, who seemed more like a waking corpse. He was in the middle of tearing apart his own clothes and flesh. Between the rent flesh and tattered clothing, it revealed the scales inside. They were extremely thick, and quite disgusting. The man had already shed half his skin. During this process, his movements weren't actually very fast. He was like a newborn baby as he slowly staggered. If it wasn't for that, then the child would have died already. At this moment, Mo Fan could be considered to have seen this type of monster's entire transformation process. If an ordinary person had seen this, they definitely would have fainted from fear. Fortunately, Mo Fan could be considered to have seen many things. Even if this kind of scene was extremely disgusting, he could only clench his teeth and eliminate the shedding demon. Lightning strike. Mo Fan quickly formed his star path and his palm instantly formed numerous lightning traces. These lightning traces passed through the large room as they flew toward the shedding demon, whipping towards it. The shedding demon's scales seemed to have a high defense. Mo Fan's lightning strike seemed to only have made a couple of black prints on its scales. He was completely unable to paralyze it, flabbergasting him. You meddlesome thing. The shedding demon let out a strange noise. It turned its head around. It had shed all of the remaining skin on its face and revealed 3 eyes that were viciously staring at Mo Fan. It raised its arm, and its shoulder that looked like that of a human suddenly expanded. It grew 3 times as thick as before, and its muscles turned rock solid. Fan Mo, the demon has an extraordinary strength, you must be careful. Lingerling's voice echoed in his ear. Mo Fan had a calm expression as he began to move back. Suddenly, the shedding demon's expanding arm began to extend towards Mo Fan. This arm was not only able to expand, but it was also able to stretch like rubber. How could this possibly be just a punch? It was clearly a large iron ball swinging. The furniture and sofas inside the room were all destroyed by his iron-like fist. Fortunately, Mo Fan had prepared for this earlier. His body turned into a shadow when the iron ball fist swept past, and then shifted toward the shade in the corner. After dodging this attack, Mo Fan continued to move. He only showed himself after he had moved to a place without shadow. The creature's strength was boundless. Mo Fan didn't dare to approach it. Mo Fan took the opportunity of when it retracted its arm to run. He ran behind the shedding demon and grabbed the crying boy. Mo Fan didn't dare to use intermediate magic before this, because he was afraid of hurting the child. It wasn't because of the money from the commission, it was because he couldn't let an innocent child lose his life like this. Freaking monster, today, I, your daddy Mo Fan, will represent the heavens. Mo Fan quickly drew the star paths. The star paths crossed with each other to form the even stronger power of the star atlas. Fan Mo, careful, the demoness is behind you, Ling suddenly shouted. Mo Fan turned his head around and discovered an extremely ugly monster outside of the window inside the room. The monster's tongue stretched out, her eyes fixed on Mo Fan and the brat that he was holding. Shit, the husband and wife are joining hands. Mo Fan cursed. Naturally, Mo Fan was no longer able to draw up the star atlas, or else his throat would have been slit by the demoness that was at the window. Hurry up and run, you won't be able to deal with two of them. Ling yelled. Don't worry about me, Mo Fan replied. Mo Fan humphed coldly. At this moment, he was standing in a place with no shadow. It could be said that the lantern on the ceiling had restricted Mo Fan's movements. Fortunately, he had obtained a pair of magic boots from Dean Seo a couple of days ago. He could put the magic equipment to good use now. Blood Beast boots, Mo Fan chanted to himself. When he had given up on the Star Atlas, he immediately activated the magic equipment he was spiritually linked to. A scarlet radiance glittered on his leg. It didn't spread, but began to slowly condense during the process of materializing, slowly forming a pair of leather boots. The boots stretched halfway up Mo Fan's calves, looking like armor that had appeared out of thin air. After activating the Blood Beast boots, Mo Fan immediately felt his legs fill with a strange power. It felt like he could collapse the entire floor with a single stomp. After Ling saw Mo Fan activating his magic equipment on the screen, she immediately let out a sigh of relief. Don't fight recklessly, you'll hurt the child. Mo Fan also understood this reasoning. When the demoness charged toward him, Mo Fan stomped the ground with his legs and jumped to the ceiling. With one hand, he grabbed onto the chandelier, his other hand carrying the child. Mo Fan used the force of the jump to land in the kitchen. The two demons didn't let the matter rest, they immediately pursued angrily. Mo Fan didn't have the mood to stay and fight with them. He used the Blood Beast boots to quickly run to the end of the kitchen, toward the laundry room. With a kick, he smashed open the window. Mo Fan didn't care too much, grabbing the child's leg as he jumped down. He wanted to jump to the 6th floor where the light wasn't on, so he could use the shadow to his advantage. Ha-ooh-hoo. His body was falling down perfectly straight. On one side, he had a child who was crying while sitting on a free bungee jump, while on the other side, was the whisking of the wind. Mo Fan's face looked upwards and saw the two demons angrily stretching their heads out, looking mighty fiendish. As Mo Fan was falling, he extended his hand and slowly erected a grand middle finger toward the two monsters while falling. Mother, I'm gonna return to my room to study. Alright, make sure you turn on the lights so you won't hurt your eyes. Mo Fan could faintly hear the sound from the 6th floor. When he turned his head around to look beneath him, a freaking cursing emerged inside. The originally dark 6th floor balcony popped, and the entire place was illuminated. The light was so bright that it covered the entire balcony, leaving no shadows around. Mo Fan had pursued him to the 10th floor while expecting the bottom to be completely dark, but reality was not the same. One could imagine just what kind of feeling he had right then. Freaking kid, what shit are you revising? This daddy is going to die because of you. Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 180 Shedding once more. Misfortune does not come singly. Mo Fan realized that the two demons were not going to let him and the kid go. They actually also jumped out of the window and charged at Mo Fan from a higher altitude. Their massive mouths and long tongues. Mo Fan realized that their hideous faces were getting closer and closer to him. The rate they were dropping at was faster than his own. Mo Fan smiled coldly as he waited for the two to jump down. Inside the floor, Mo Fan didn't want to carelessly use intermediate magic. The power of Fiery Fist was capable of burning down the entire floor and spreading to the other floors as well. However, right now was the perfect opportunity to make his move. Fiery Fist. The star paths were already completed. Once he saw the two monsters falling down, Mo Fan quickly intersected the star paths, forming a complete fire star atlas. The star atlas emerged on Mo Fan's back this time because he was falling from a height. He tightly gripped his right hand, and the red flames around his body instantly gathered on Mo Fan's left wrist, turning into a vicious, burning bracelet. Rose flames. The fire was incomparably beautiful, 1,000 shades of red. From a distance, it looked like a multitude of roses blooming in splendor. Rose flames, Fiery Fist, explosive heavens. Mo Fan's fist was on fire. Using the strength of his entire body, he shot forth the fist toward the pitch-black sky. Woo! A fierce flame with the shape of a fist emerged. As it shot toward the skies, the fiery rose flames dyed the entire building red. As the fist blasted at him, the two demons didn't expect Mo Fan would actually complete a fire magic while falling down. The two creatures could see the colossal fist charging up at them. As the wave of heat hit them, the scales on their body were completely burned away. Wah! The demoness seemed to be smarter than the demon. She suddenly grabbed onto the other demon. The demon was initially very confused. Since they were both going to be engulfed by the flames, what was the point of grabbing onto each other? Unexpectedly, the demoness stomped onto the other demon's back. While it was in the middle of falling, she had actually jumped onto the balcony of the other building. A loud rumbling filled the air. The captivating hues from the strength of the fist of flames were shocking. After engulfing the demon in flames, its scales were all burned away. The expanding muscles on its body were not able to endure the baptism of this fiery energy. The demon was originally falling, but the fist had ferociously blown him to an altitude even higher than the building. From the distance, it looked like a burning firework had accidentally landed on the rooftop. What a sly bitch. Mo Fan looked at the demoness laying on the other building's balcony, and couldn't help but coldly humph. The fiery fist burst into incredible flames above the building, illuminating the entire neighborhood and making it look like daytime. With such a bright source of light, it made several convenient shadows beneath a couple of the buildings. With the help of the shadow of this building, Mo Fan used evading shadow as he nearly reached the third floor. His body sank into the shadows, and shifted into the plaza down on the ground. Mo Fan put the kid he was carrying on the ground and heaved a big sigh. Shit, fortunately I'm super witty, or else I would have died from that damn kid who turned on the lights after eating dinner. Fan Mo, are you alright? Lingerling's voice came out of the Bluetooth earpiece. Mo Fan glanced at the kid whose eyes had rolled up into his head as he awkwardly replied, I'm alright. The kid is, oh, he fainted. You blasted the demon, right to my location, Lingerling said with some dissatisfaction. That's a bit out of my control. However, the power of my fiery fist is at least double that of your normal intermediate spell. The demon ate the full power of my heaven-piercing fiery fist. Even if it didn't die, it is at least handicapped, Mo Fan told her. I never thought you'd be this impressive, Lingerling complimented him. Up on the rooftop, Lingerling was looking at the carcass of the demon, burned pitch black, as she was talking with Mo Fan. Back when Lingerling's grandfather had said Mo Fan had some abilities, she had thought he was deceiving her. She thought it was because he didn't want her to be in any danger, thus, he purposely let an average nobody accompany her to do the small things in Shanghai. She had not expected that this guy's prowess was rather something, and she had no idea that he actually had a spirit-grade fire seed. For someone his age to have this kind of strength was rather rare. Furthermore, Lingerling clearly remembered that Fan Mo also possessed the lightning element. For an intermediate mage to use magic of 3 different elements, that was something unheard of. What's up? Mo Fan returned to the rooftop and inquired about the situation of the black carcass. Check it yourself. Although Lingerling wasn't very old, her courage was all out of proportion to her size. She didn't have any reaction after seeing the burned carcass. As Mo Fan walked toward the carcass, he began to have some suspicions. In that moment, the black carcass's skin suddenly cracked. Its back was first, and it slowly cracked to the head and legs. It looked like a baked potato cracking its skin open. Mo Fan tensed up. He wondered if this monster could shed its skin to attack once again. However, when Mo Fan realized that a living person's skin had popped out after the burned skin had peeled back, he began to feel even more mystified. The black skin peeled off increasingly faster. Inside was a naked man, weird fluids all over him, crawling out like a newborn baby. He acted like he hadn't been breathing for a long time. After he crawled out of the stinking remnants of the demon's skin, he began to take multiple deep breaths. It looked extremely painful. Mo Fan was stunned as he watched all this. The man that crawled out of there was clearly the husband. Heavens, just what is going on? After shedding the first time, he had turned into a fearsome demon. After the demon died, he shed once more, returning to human form. Was this guy a demon or a person? Help, help me. The man looked as though he was suffering a huge torment, just crawling around on the roof. Lingerling stood there without moving. Mo Fan was momentarily confused as to what to do. At last, Lingerling opened her mouth. Call the ambulance. He's a person, don't let him die. Kid, are you sure? Lingerling clenched her teeth as she said firmly, he's the client. If he dies, then we can forget about our 200,000 RMB. Mo Fan was completely exhausted by this girl. If her appearance and physique weren't like a little lowly, then Mo Fan would have suspected she was actually a mature, cold woman. Alright, what old Bao said was right. Lingerling's heart is definitely not like other people. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.